All right. Welcome, everyone. It is Wednesday. It is 4:30 p.m. Central Time. It is office hours. Hey, Andrew. How are things?
Oh, not too bad. It's Wednesday already because we've got a weird schedule this week, so I'm happy to see that. How about you?
I was I'm good, but I was under the firm belief that yesterday was Monday most of the day. It just felt like a Monday. I cannot explain, but
Sure did feel like it. I agree.
yeah. So, what news do you have in our little
So,
industry?
just a couple of small things for me this week that I came across. Happy to share them.
Right, your screen is coming up in three, two, one, go.
Here we go. That looks like my screen.
Should be, yeah. It's not mine, so better be yours.
So this first page I came across, I had not seen before, so I'm not sure if it's entirely brand new or just new to me. But it's called EntraDocsTracker by Daniel Bradley, and you can see reference to his blog here, which is a fantastic blog to follow, by the way, ourcloudnetwork.com. Um, but this page just summarizes any changes to the Entra Docs, Microsoft's Entra Docs. And it's a little bit eye opening to see how often they actually change here. I mean, just today we see one, two, three, four changes in the docs. During a short week, I'd say that's a decent amount. Of course, there's a lot of documentation for Entra itself, but this is really cool. I had not seen this, so this is something I'm going to try to bookmark and pay attention to at least semi regularly.
Make
Uh,
one for MDT documentation changes. Nothing happened this year.
yeah, last change what 2000 was there?
18, I think
Yeah,
we
I was
made
going to
up.
say any doc changes in the 2020s. I don't know.
Maybe when they published the UI5 fix, they might have done some documentation update then, but otherwise, no.
It is interesting though. I mean, if you were to expand this out to some of the other services, Intune, and some of the specific Azure services, some of the specific Azure services, you'd have to have a page for each one of them, right? Or it would be completely unwieldy.
Yeah, but I would like to see one for ConfigMgr because they update their documentation quite frequently.
Definitely. And I do like here, I mean, it looks like, we can search, for example, if we want to see any changes that reference groups. Uh, the search looks like it's pretty nice and fast. So I like that.
All right, awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. And then another one that I came across, I just want to make sure I get this right here, but we've referenced Martin Himkin's Intune network requirements script many times here on Office Hours, and it was updated just a couple of days ago to include Defender for Endpoint and Visual Studio endpoints. So strange. Wanted to point this out as well. This is a fantastic script if you've not used it before. And let me see if I can stop having issues with the browser here. Um, this script, which is a fairly lengthy script, will actually go through and test connections to a whole bunch of public Microsoft endpoints. So very useful in troubleshooting or even just getting prepared to release a new service that your organization is going to be using in production. Defender for Endpoint, great example, one of the latest updates. If you're going to start rolling out Defender for Endpoint, it would make sense to use a script like this. Take and run it on a couple of clients across a couple of different networks in your enterprise network, and verify that they can actually connect to the Defender for Endpoint URLs and IPs. So fantastic stuff here. And last but certainly not least, let me see if I can come up with the post for it here. but I did see a post from our friend Michael Niehaus, who mentioned that, and here we go. Let's see if this will pull up. Aha, it will. If you are on the Insider preview channel for Windows, it looks like Windows 11 25H2 is now available. If you want to be so bold and start testing it out. Preferably in a lab. Probably wouldn't recommend doing it on your production machine, but Michael's a trailblazer. He may have done it.
Would not surprise me one bit.
So anyways, I thought that was pretty cool news as well. That means it's inching ever closer, and that also means it's fall pretty soon. So those were the few things that I had this week.
All right, then. Let me see the screen for a second.
All right.
Do that, and, well, we can leave that one there. Let's do it nicely. All right. Stumbled across this tweet from one of the Intune program managers here, but apparently we'll be able to select which updates we want to approve together with some rollout options. Haven't seen it shown up in my tenant yet, but and apparently that particular post led to absolutely nowhere. And it was hidden in that one. Quality update management. There we go. Okay, that was. I thought maybe there was more information underneath, but there wasn't. But this looks promising. Upcoming change, so allows us to pick when and where. So
quite interesting.
Yeah, I'll say so. And speaking of Windows updates, there's been a couple of threads going on. Stumbled across one over at Reddit, and I also stumbled across this Twitter thread that kind of came from that Reddit post. And give me a second here. I need to need to adjust this a little bit. Not pull the right link for me. What can possibly go wrong in a live demo? It was a reply from Brian Dam regarding Autopilot and machines starting to update themselves even though they shouldn't just yet.
Oh. See if I can help you find it here.
Yes, I found it.
All right.
I'm a master searcher.
There you are.
That was the one. Apparently, some folks are seeing updates coming down and basically breaking their autopilot thing. So we'll keep an eye on that one. I thought maybe someone had pulled the trigger on the actual enabling part and not yet updated their website or the Intune tenant. I checked my own tenant just before we started here, and I did not yet have that control plane in my enrollment status page, but the Teams has been flagged about the issue there, so hopefully that will get fixed. Then I stumbled across something a little bit older and not very related at all to this, but this video, an hour-long video by Andrew Taylor, Dean Ellerby, and Stephen Weiner, covers basically, all right, what about stuff you have in Intune? If you accidentally delete a little bit too much, how quickly can you recover from that? Now, in the post, they do demonstrate a third-party product. It was called Tenant Manager that Andrew and a bunch of other people has been working on. But what really got to me the most was like, all right, yeah, that's a good point. What if you do get rid of stuff that you shouldn't? How quickly can you restore that data? And throughout the session, it's an hour-long session, they actually get pretty technical deep into like some of the challenges. So even though this is covering a third-party solution partly, there was some really great technical tidbits available as well throughout the session. So highly recommend that one. All right. And then I stumbled across this little tweet from our good Frank, our good friend Frank here in Chicago. And it seems that Broadcom, like every single time they have a chance, they try to make something just a little bit more worse. I was like, yeah, this was real bad. Like, hold my beer. I'll try to make it even more worse. But apparently they have stopped providing updates for their free products. So they disabled that intentionally in this KB article here. So
certainly a choice, I guess.
Yeah, is it a bright one? No, a choice nonetheless. So we can say we agree to disagree. An update. So anyhow. And finally, I stumbled across a blog post from Simon over at Cloudway in Norway. He apparently ran into an issue where Autopilot devices were failing due to a kind of a hidden policy in your conditional access. So this was a really good read. Highly recommend anyone who do Autopilot deployments to read it. It provides some nice background information. But as always, we will share these links under the video here. So that was all I had in terms of news.
All right. Some fantastic stuff, I'd say.
Tried my best.
All right. Well, we do have a couple of questions that have come in. Several hellos, familiar names and faces here. So hello to everybody joining. Thanks for joining today. First question here is from Jeff, who happens to have been MIA for a while because he got a new job. So congratulations on that, Jeff.
Hey, awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome. The downside is that it's an Altiris shop, not a ConfigMgr shop. But they are hybrid joined in Intune as well. So co-managed without the cooperation. So the company wants to get rid of Altiris. So the question is it worth it to move to ConfigMgr or bite the bullet and try to focus on cloud native eventually? And before we answer that, Zach Sattler did have a comment here. What a great question, Jeff. Absolutely. It's a fantastic question. Probably depends on the business needs, but would try to go cloud only. Looking forward to our thoughts on it.
Well, first of all, I have to snatch something over. Give me just a second.
All right.
It's with regards to Altiris, of course, and I cannot stop myself from this.
No holding you back.
No, not this one.
Yes. Same.
Indeed. But to answer the question, Altiris, even back in the early days, back in like 2002, 2003, was a pretty decent deployment solution, and there were quite many things you couldn't do with it. It has its own little sequence engine, so in that regards, it was almost like an earlier version of what we have in ConfigMgr today. And I worked with a hosting provider in Sweden, and we basically deployed thousands of servers. And Altiris at that time, they were smart, because if you bought a server from HP, IBM, or what's the other vendor? Dell, you got an Altiris license with it. So of course people used it to deploy them. But we started to integrate Altiris with other platforms like MDT, like databases and web services and whatnot. So there is a lot of customization that can be done. Is it developed much these days? Not that I have heard. I would definitely recommend moving to a platform that actually has some development to it, even though it's not as much, like ConfigMgr or any of the cloud or community solutions that are out there, OSD Cloud and others, or find a vendor that you can work with that has that development and support ongoing. Because as great as community solutions are, you are always depending on basically those people being available to help if there are any problems with it. So they are free, but they're also you don't have the same guarantee for support that you have for a paid platform. But yeah.
Well said. All right. Sabrina's got a question here for us around apps. We've already moved 300 apps from SCCM to Intune. Is there any way to sync the old SCCM collections into Intune groups? Ideally, something simple or maybe a community script.
And it works, it's simple. Let me show. If I go to one of my ConfigMgr environments here that I have, well, not that one, that was an MDT server. Let's see where I have too many servers. Here's one.
You could never.
I know, but I had it. Okay. Here I have a bunch of collections. And if I wanted to sync one of these collections up to a group, the only thing I have to do is do properties and go to Cloud Sync here and add in the group that I want to sync with. And ConfigMgr tries its very best to keep that group updated. Now, over the years, this has been a bit of a hit and miss. Every now and then we still see issues with it, but in general, these days it does the job. I've seen other organizations. I was following a thread from Adam Gross a while ago. They basically used a local database where they had a group membership that they wanted, that I snatched from whatever platform they're using at the time, and then had a script that just synced them up all the time. Because you can have a scheduled task running or a function or whatever web service that gets that information up there through a script. So both solutions, I'll say, are equally valid. This one is by far the most simplest one when it does work.
Yeah, otherwise, a little bit of scripting. Like you said, Adam had the fantastic solution with the database included in that, but a little bit of scripting can go a long way if the devices are co-managed, or I mean, they're in Intune, so they should be in Entra ID. You could be able to write a script that will match up the names and go that route. Pull the names out of the device names out of a collection, and then add them to an Entra ID group on the other side. But I use that feature quite a bit too, Johan, the one that you just showed, the Cloud Sync. Pretty good.
All right, awesome.
All right. Shri has a question here. Moving towards Autopilot from MDT. The requirement is hybrid join due to Fortinet 801X GPO. When I tried, I'm getting this error code 800707774. Any help would be appreciated on that.
I would need some more details on that. If it's just that 802.1x is blocking the traffic, the most common solution is to have some sort of script running in your deployment process so it unlocks that port for a couple of hours so you can both deploy and enroll that device until it can get the right policies assigned to it which also will unlock it for basically forever then on the device. When using sequences, we typically have that very early in the sequence to unlock it. If we're doing PXE deployment and have a modern PXE solution, you can actually have the PXE boot process trigger a server process that unlocks the device, but some sort of automation around it is usually preferred. I've also seen some organizations having just a web portal that technicians go into, and they punch in the MAC address of the device or the computer name if it already exists, and then that unlocks it for 4 hours. But automation is better. Mm-hmm. And pretty much all 802.1x platforms that I've stumbled across, they do support automation routines that have an API that can be leveraged, send a workload to it, and or payload, typically a JSON payload, and then you work with it from there. So that's my take on 802.1x.
Excellent. Let's see. Shri just had a follow-up comment. The network I'm doing Autopilot in is not in Fortinet.
If it's just a generic Autopilot message there, sure, it's nothing I recognize, but I do know that most of Europe were affected by an Autopilot issue yesterday. I think it eventually got fixed, but there was a good number of folks that were getting that infamous something went wrong type error with an error code. I do not recognize the one that you had there on top of my head.
No, I'm just trying to see if I can find anything here as well. Most of what I am finding is related to hybrid. And, with some recommendations for some basic checks first. Make sure you can ping the DC from that client PC. Make sure EntraConnect sync is running. The Intune connector is running. Came across this too, if you want to share my screen, Johan.
All right, coming up. That was not your screen.
We've had enough of Andrew.
I'm sorry, sir.
Oh, that's okay. Came across this post. It is a few years old, and like Johan, I've not come across this either. But this does give a few recommendations on things to check. Some of those again being Intune connectors working, configured for hybrid join user, and that sort of thing. So we can drop this in the links this evening, and maybe this will help. Hope it does.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I just know that we actually have had an update from Mr. Zach himself here regarding our query earlier, so I figured I could just go ahead and share that one, and Zach can yell at me later if it wasn't okay. It's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permissions, I think.
That's right.
But this was a really good point, I think, especially to get that auditing in place. Mm-hmm. I like that. So.
Very cool.
Thank you so much, Zach. Yep. Worst case, I will be here. I'm a mess.
Make it 2. I'll be there as well.
Yep.
Jeff just had a follow-up comment here around the Altiris and ConfigMgr conversation. He said, that's why I'm thinking ConfigMgr, we're already entitled to it and have decades of experience there. The fear is that there's not much life with the platform.
Oh, there is not much new development in ConfigMgr, but it's still a supported platform, and I expect it to be supported for quite many years. Even though their team in Redmond right now is a tiny team compared to what it used to be, still good developers. They have been part of the product for a long time. And even just the last release, the 2503, it was basically the first release with this smaller team. They still threw in 350 bug fixes in it, which is, I mean, a good chunk number. So in terms of imaging platform, it's a good one. It's not the only one, but it is a good one. And you don't have to make it super complicated. You can keep it around for basic imaging and it will work just fine.
Mm-hmm. All right. Zach said he'd never yell at you.
If I can come up with something.
It sounds like a challenge.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Amir had a comment. So I was worried about the cumulative update reboots last week. We ran into the same issue that Ravi reported. Microsoft said it's a known operational trade-off of the new out-of-box experience update flow, even though we couldn't disable it yet. We had to walk several new employees remotely through resetting and reprovisioning their laptop, which was far from the white glove experience we wanted them to start with.
It's more like a smack with a glove experience rather than a white glove. I mean, obviously, it's not ideal that the feature, if that's the case, becomes enabled on the platform before the control plane that disables it is. That's just an unfortunate timing issue if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know. I mean, I can imagine some unhappy users there for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
if they have to release something first, it would be better to release the control plane and then the actual update.
Exactly.
I think it was someone that was like, oh, it's Friday, let's deploy.
No, there's a reason read-only Friday exists as a concept.
Well, there are two schools there. There are folks that really embrace the whole deploy to Friday because it gives them the weekend to fix it if it breaks.
True.
And there are folks that kind of likes to have the weekend off also. So two schools.
Yep. And there are places that simply don't have a choice, I assume.
That too.
I think if I'm in finance or something like that, I'd probably rather deploy something over the weekend when most of the markets are closed, for example.
Yeah, breaking the trading floor on a Monday morning is probably be a career limiting move.
What's the other one that you resume generating event?
Yeah. All right. What's up?
Let's see. Yeah, Mike O'Leary, depends on what I'm breaking. Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. You don't have to subscribe just to one or the other, right?
I like the breaking. I like it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see here.
I don't see any other questions. I hope we didn't miss one. We still have a half an hour available, so if you do have any questions, let us know.
Yeah, please do.
I also have to get this on the record because now it's forever.
I do love the irony of having an exclamation point at the end of that statement, though.
It would be cooler if it were all caps.
Yeah, never yell at you. There is something that I think both you and I came across. We were discussing it a little bit before we hopped on here. I think maybe need to digest it a little bit more, but this announcement of the end of servicing plan for third-party printer drivers on Windows. So I came across it and was kind of like, okay, what does this mean? And you pointed out, I think rightfully, this is what it means. No new print drivers are going to be coming down through Windows Update. And I imagine for some organizations that's going to be a change, right? What I've been used to in recent years is something like a paper cut or another client pushing down and dealing with the drivers itself. But I imagine others are relying on this mechanism.
Yeah, but I was also looking at the date there in July, which is even more interesting, is that it will always prefer the inbox drivers over a vendor driver, even though the vendor driver may be better. Because I mean, so far, if Windows doesn't have a driver and the vendor does have a driver, will snatch that driver and deploy it. This, I think, is a pretty bold move. Probably a good reason for it, but I just cannot. I don't understand the reason, I guess.
No. Well, like I said, I mean, something that I think maybe we need to digest a little bit more and probably pay attention as these dates come up. I actually didn't realize when this announcement came out was interesting. I don't remember. There's a lot of news that happens in 2 years, but I don't remember catching this one.
Oh, this was the first time I saw it.
Oh.
So like, okay, interesting.
So we'll put it out there and try to pay attention to any other changes to this. But if anyone else, as we go along here over the next several months, as this comes up, feel free to share as well. All right. Let's see. Looks like we had a couple of questions come in. From Amir, their current MDT WDS physical server is on its last leg. The issue with the August 24H2 ISO I mentioned a couple of weeks ago was in fact a corrupted imported WIM file. Any suggestion what to replace it with?
I mean, WDS is still a very functional PXE server. It's just not a very good one. I'm biased, but the best one I know is out there is iPXE, which is sold by Two Prime Software. It's absolutely not free. Cheaper for nonprofit and education than for regular commercial organization, but it is a paid offering. But it's a very, very capable PXE server. But WDS still works, even though it doesn't receive much love in terms of updates and features.
And I think you hit a couple of really good points there. He just had a follow-up with no on-prem domain in place. I'm torn between a new MDT instance on a VM, the Friends of MDT route, or other paid or free cloud solutions.
I mean, it goes back to the discussion we had before. It's basically what are your support requirements? Is your organization okay with a free community solution, or does it have to be something that you actually have an established support channel for, and that usually moves towards a paid offering? And there are plenty out there, and highly recommend evaluate them and reach out to the vendors and make yourself an opinion about what will work for you.
All right. Zach says he talks loud in chat. I do too. I use
Ghost typer.
exclamation. Yeah,
Yeah.
I use exclamation points and emojis and GIFs quite a bit, actually.
Heavy typer. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Tim's got a question here on the Intune side of things. What would cause a configuration to have an assignment status as not applicable? This particular policy has settings that affect the user, but the policy is assigned to a device-based group.
Hmm.
I think depending on the policy, that alone could do it, right? If you have a user-based setting that you are assigning to a group of devices.
I'm checking a few things. No, I'm on your page as well, that the profile has indeed user settings, but they assign it to the device-based group. And then Intune will basically say not applicable. Yes, it can happen for it's like a platform mismatch, but Intune is pretty good in figuring out what settings to apply for the right version of Windows.
So Jeff just had a related follow-up question here. Can you tell us more about these settings and why not to deploy to a user group?
The user settings are perfectly fine to deploy to user groups, but in this case, I think it was a user setting that was deployed to a group with devices.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm curious, is this by any chance a co-managed environment? Basically, if ConfigMgr is in charge, Intune may show that something is not applicable also. Everything I can come up with on top of my head. If anyone has an idea that is better, let us know. I'll be happy to share it in the chat here or in the session, live stream.
Yep, Tim just followed up. Yes, co-managed, had some Outlook settings in the deployment configuration. Would maybe give that a shot if you're using the user-based settings. Maybe try testing just assigning those to users instead of devices first, and see if you still get that not applicable.
And follow-up discussion between the folks here in the chat also, basically asking if Outlook was installed. And then, yeah, Outlook was installed was the follow-up answer. I love when this happens, when discussions continues while we are talking in between folks that are joining.
One of my favorite things about doing this.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, Zach had a fantastic question here. How do I keep my machines on 23H2 until I'm ready to release to the rings? Do I create a 23H2 feature update and target 23H2 machines, then exclude those ready to move? The max we can defer is 365 days.
There is a policy that allows you to define or basically hard code a target release. Forgot what the name is, but it's one of those policies available. Do you happen to have it, Andrew?
Are you just referring to the feature update policies?
Yeah, so there is a special one for not the feature update policy Intune, like a different policy where you specify that the target, what you accept. Let's see if I can find it.
Okay. Yeah, because the way that I'm reading Zach's question, I think, is exactly how I would typically do it, is through a feature update policy like this. So I have a feature update policy that is targeting 23H2, including a group called Windows 11 23H2 upgrade. But if I had devices that were in the 23H2 upgrade group at one point and removed them and put them in, say, a 24H2 upgrade group, I would exclude it from this policy. And then have a second feature update policy that's targeting the 24H2 upgrade group and the 24H2 upgrade. I think, is that about what you were thinking, Zach? Because I think in theory with this one then, Johan, if you have this assigned to your devices, your deferral isn't necessarily going to matter because 24H2 or 25H2 is never going to be offered to the devices that have this policy. Yeah, Zach, if you wanted to test this, I think you could probably exclude a couple of devices, test devices or something like that, from your standard rings and reduce that deferral down on those devices. Just so you can see what this would look like, or at least prove out that this feature update policy would operate that way. But that's exactly how I would run with it.
What's the target release version I was thinking of? It's a CSP. I wonder if the feature update ring would actually set that one.
Is that
bring it up on screen and see if it makes any sense to you, Andrew.
Okay.
This one here, let me just go ahead and share the screen again. That one, I wonder if that one can still be applicable for that. Heck,
Yeah.
test and let us know.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I am curious. I'm definitely now curious if the same thing happens, like you just said. Will this feature update policy ultimately set the same registry key on the client? That I do not know.
We have homework.
Yes. Yes, we do. So I think these registry keys were getting tossed around quite a bit on the consumer side at one point, if I recall correctly, when Windows 11 started being offered or forced to some devices. One of those things that, Johan, I've heard you talk in the past about using, I don't know, how do you put it, like decrapifier scripts and stuff like that for, maybe there's some better terms for that, but the dangers in doing that. And I think the target release version registry keys were one of those things.
Could be, but this is an official policy.
Yeah, sorry, I should clarify to say was one of those things that would potentially show up in those scripts. Not that there's anything necessarily an issue with setting it through one of these policies.
So that's all I can think of, and I saw from Zach that I will give it a go.
Okay. Yeah, so I think you're right, Johan. We've got a little bit of homework, but Zach, if you have anything additional as you get into testing here over the next couple of weeks, would love to hear about it.
Caring is caring.
That's right. Man, you really got me curious if this sets the same thing. It would not surprise me in the least bit.
All right, cool.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Great question.
Yeah, we still have 11 minutes more for more questions.
Yes, we do.
But I don't see any more coming up through the feed here.
Nope, me either.
All right then. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today, and we certainly hope to see you again same time next week. And Andrew, thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you, Johan. Thanks, everybody.